And now I've got the pleasure of introducing the first speaker of our final section on the future. So please welcome Prisha Hill.
Hello everyone. So today is such a busy day. We've got World Speech Day, we've got Comic Relief, and we've also got the second round of youth climate strikes. And I personally find the youth strikes to be so inspirational. These young children are coming out and saying we need to take action on climate change. Back when I was that age, a couple of years ago, it's not very long, back then, climate change to me just wasn't really a thing. I kind of heard about it, but it just seemed like this big, ominous ball of doom that was never going to affect me. It was years off in the future, and all the scientists and the politicians would have come together to solve it by then. It wasn't going to affect me. It was going to be fine. In my 20s, I joined the WI and have since become a climate ambassador with the WI. And for those of you who don't know, the WI take on various issues that they feel are important every year, and they campaign hard. For instance, Keep Britain Tidy was a WI campaign, and quite a successful one. The WI first campaigned on climate issues back in 1927, and here we are nearly 100 years later with not a lot to show for it. It's boggling to think that we're not doing anything. And in the book, How Bad Are Bananas?, author Mike Berners-Lee suggests that our species is great at understanding the direct, immediate, and visible consequences of our actions. We're not so good at recognising those consequences when they're dispersed across billions of people whom we will never meet. And back when we lived in caves, it didn't matter so much, but it won't help us live in a global society. And so I thought I'd try and make the invisible visible for you tonight. So I took the global climate data and I've knitted it into a scarf. Starting at 1600, we've got white representing average global temperatures, blue for where it's been cooler, and I was going to do red for warmer years, but that would have needed 6 different shades of red. And so I started with yellow to go up to red. And that only goes up to 2017 because 2018 data hasn't been released yet. And you can't really see it from here, but just here there's a really dark maroon line, which was 2016. I've got a sneaking suspicion 2018 was going to be pretty much the same, or darker. Thank you. I meant to say, just around here, this section, is the Industrial Revolution. And that's important because that's where we started to mechanise processes. Things that would have taken weeks or months, we were suddenly able to start doing in days with a lot less manpower. So it brought down the cost of things, really. And that is the birthplace, really, of our modern consumer culture. And that leads on to a very visible consequence that we ignore, and that's rubbish. The amount of rubbish that we produce every day. We Brits currently produce enough rubbish in 2 hours to fill the Albert Hall, and that is not sustainable. We need to do something about it. And so that's what I want from all of you today, to try and come up with something to reduce your waste somehow. And it's not that difficult. You just need to remember the 5 R's of zero waste. Refuse, reduce, reuse, recycle, and rot. So refuse, first one. We can refuse excess packaging, buy loose items rather than stuff in plastic bags. We can refuse free samples of things that we don't need. Whilst I was pregnant last summer, the amount of disposable nappies that got thrown in my direction, I'd already made a decision to use cloth nappies, and yet I found myself drowning in all these disposable nappies. And it was just the case of saying no thank you to well-meaning people who just wanted to help out. So that's refuse, reduce. Again, just reduce your packaging waste by buying loose instead of pre-packaged items. If you've got a recipe that calls for 2 lemons, buy 2 lemons. Don't buy a net of 6, you'll likely have at least a couple going to waste. So by buying just what you need, you're going to reduce your packaging waste, you're going to reduce your food waste, and you're going to reduce your shopping bill at the end. Reuse, let's face it, we've all got a cupboard with lots of containers and tubs, probably missing lids, but we've all got that cupboard, and we've all got containers that we can take with us to the shops. I have containers that I take to the butchers and I take with me to restaurants to put my leftovers in afterwards. I've got little glass jars that I take with me to the sweet shop in town, and they're just the right size to get exactly £1 worth of sweets in there. Yes, I've got a sweet tooth. Next up, we've got recycling. That's one I'm sure we're all familiar with. And it's amazing how many times I talk about zero waste and people come up to me and say, I do my part, I always recycle. But recycling isn't the answer. To recycle a sheet of paper still takes up to 50% of the virgin materials that are used to create it in the first place. And so I like to think of recycling as slicing your finger off and sticking a plaster on the end to stem the bleeding. It helps in the short term, but it's not a long-term solution. And so that's something we need to move away from. And then finally, we've got rot. If something you're about to buy doesn't fit into any of the other categories, it's going to have to rot in landfill, with the exception of food, which can obviously go into the compost bin. So those are the 5 R's. Don't worry if you can't remember them. I've got little cards like this one. Thank you, Leah. Little cards here for all of you. It's got the 5 R's written on. On the back, you'll see it's nice and blank. I want all of you to write down a pledge. Something, it doesn't matter how big or small, just something that you can action first thing tomorrow to reduce your waste. And obviously, people watching at home can get involved as well. You obviously won't have a card, but you can still write something down. And you'll find on here are my contact details, because I want all of you to contact me and let me know how you're getting on. I want to celebrate your successes with you, and I want to know if you're struggling, because if you're struggling, I can help you, or I can try to help you, and then we can make a difference. Frankly, the stakes are just too high for me to let you fail. So please do get in touch. Children are on strike today in 123 countries because this matters too much to them. They are asking us to take action to provide them with a cleaner, greener future. So let's lead the way. Let's do something first thing tomorrow to give them the future that they're asking for and the future that they deserve. I look forward to hearing from all of you. Thank you so much for listening to me. Thank you.
So in the time since I've known Prisha, she has again put her hand up and said, I would like to be your climate ambassador. It's a WI climate ambassador for the whole Bedfordshire. And this is why her offer for you guys to get in touch with her is an absolute genuine one.